everyone, welcome on this live webinar on YouTube. Today we'll talk about going from XenServer to XCP-ng. I hope you are hearing me well. We'll see some different parts on this webinar. So first we'll do a quick recap on how to what the status of XenServer and XCP-ng projects. Then we'll see how to upgrade in details, and also how to roll back, where to find help, and finally we'll do a Q&A session. So first, I'm Oliver. I'm the CEO and founder of Vates. I'm a former sysadmin working mainly on Linux, BSD, and Xen. And I'm also the founder of Xen Orchestra and XCP-ng. You can follow us on Twitter, and you can go on the XCP-ng website if you want to learn more. Okay, so first thing first, I'd like to talk about the status of XenServer. So if you follow a bit the news regarding that, so you know that the next release will be named Citrix Hypervisor. So Citrix decided to remove the Xen name in all their product portfolio for different reasons. And it means that also XenServer.org will be removed at April 1st. So what about XenServer last year, almost 2 years ago now? They decided to almost kill the free edition. So by that, I mean, they removed a lot of features. So I suppose you are aware of that if you are here today. But it's not just that, it's also the fact that all the new features delivered by Citrix are mainly closed source. Also, Citrix has other priorities like desktop virtualization, and this is a bit of a problem because they don't really care about people doing server virtualization. Also, as you may know, there is no really open source culture, not a big community regarding server virtualization, and it's Citrix only product. By that I mean there is a lack of contribution outside Citrix. So that's why there is XCP-ng in the end. The trigger frankly was removing the features from the free edition, but this is, you know, just the trigger, because there is a lot of stuff before even that's in my opinion required to do a fork. What about XCP-ng? So you may probably know it's a fork of XenServer. Just doing this quick recap because sometimes people ask some question regarding what's inside XCP-ng. Basically, it's all the components, mostly all the components that you have in XenServer. The main difference is that's community driven. We got a very nice forum with a lot of people, a lot of contributors there, and it's really open source. I'd like to point that the fact really open source means that it's free, it's GPL v2, but also all the documentation is available to be able to build yourself if you want to build your own XCP-ng or add new features or whatever. So it's completely open from the code to the future of the project. Also, because it's open, we can add really cool new stuff inside it and fix bugs faster than Citrix can do, because this is a priority for us and the community. Regarding XCP-ng today, some numbers that I find interesting is that there is a lot of people contributing on the forum. By that I mean active people with at least one post. It's a lot. We got a lot of unique downloads, and we talk today about the fact how easy it is to upgrade from XenServer. So this is the main topic of today, and you will learn a few tricks and interesting also stuff on how to do it and why there's sometimes some limitation. And this is more a technical talk explaining why you can or can't do this or that. Okay. This is a quick thing regarding the new features we added. The biggest one I would say is the one adding the ZSD compression support for export VMs. That's really interesting because it's really faster, at least 3 times faster than doing JZip export. So it's for me just an example on how we can improve a product if it's really open, and if everyone can contribute and add new ideas and bring something together and not just done by one company. And we are entering the topic by the first question, which is, what's the technical difference between XCP-ng and XenServer? The main one is regarding the update mechanism, because it's somehow the same and not the same. In XenServer, you got a kind of pack system. You have to install it with the client, download, for example, a zip, and use this pack. It's a bit strange for people used to Linux, and it's for a historical reason from Citrix, mainly to they have a lot of Windows customers and they're not used to make basic Linux administration tasks, so they tried to make some package to distribute those packages. So in XCP-ng, we wanted to be closer to how a Linux distro works. So because it's based on CentOS, we can use Yum, which is the package manager for CentOS. And because we are using that, we can do a lot of interesting stuff with it. For example, inline updates, if you want to update, but also having some specific repositories like testing repos, etc. So that's very interesting, because for a community perspective, you can, for example, enable this repo for people who want to test some latest kernels or Zen versions, or testing new stuff before going into production. So this is very useful for us and more flexible than the current XenServer pack system. Outside that, I would say they are pretty similar. It's the same components. We built those components ourselves. We distributed, but that's pretty much it. Yes, with the time, it's likely there's some more differences, because if Citrix continue to implement some closed source features, then we can't, implement or redistribute them. So this is the main difference, but for now, it's pretty narrow. Regarding the upgrade process, and this is the one that we are interested in, it's really interesting because the upgrade process is exactly the same than XenServer in XCP-ng. So it means you can upgrade a XenServer to XCP-ng, and it will be the exact same procedure than upgrading from an older XenServer to a more recent XenServer version. So that's interesting because the cost to go to XCP-ng to unlock everything is the same than just upgrading your XenServer version. So if you have, for example, a 7.2 XenServer version, the time to migrate to, for example, XCP-ng 7.6 will be the same than migrating to XenServer 7.6. That's why that's really interesting, and that's frankly that was one of our goals when we did XCP-ng, to be able to let people easily migrate to it, because this is one way to build a community. Okay, so you have those slides, but if you want to take a look on our wiki, you got a dedicated section called Upgrade from XenServer, explaining everything I will explain today, but in a text format. But I suggest that you take a look at this after this webinar, because this will be really helpful to be sure you won't forget anything if you start to migrate. So also, they said the wiki is editable by everyone with a GitHub account. So if you want to fix something or report a typo, etc., you can fix it yourself. Okay, so let's enter into the main topic. As I said, the key concept about upgrading from XenServer to XCP-ng is it should be easy, and it is, frankly. I will show you a demo. The main selling point for me is the fact that you can live migrate a XenServer VM to XCP-ng. So this is really interesting because it means you can upgrade your existing infrastructure without losing any downtime and any settings. There is no configuration loss because during the upgrade process, XCP-ng will keep the ZAPI database, which is the place where all the Xen settings are stored. So this is really interesting to make a really an easy migration. The generic steps, in short, if you have, for example, a pool with 3 hosts, let's take a simple example. If you have VMs on your master, it's what I call evacuate. So it means just live migrate VMs from your master to your slaves. And then you will upgrade your pool master. And this is the #1 rule. Always upgrade your pool master first. I will explain the reason why. Why? Because when you have a pool, you have multiple hosts. There is one pool master and slaves. The only database which is in read and write is the master database. And if you upgrade a slave first, it means that the slave won't be able to reach the master database, because you can always have a slave communicating with the master with a more recent version, but you can't do the other way. It means if a slave is in more recent version than the master, then the ZAPI won't work on this slave. So you won't lose data, you won't have a huge problem. It just means that ZAPI won't respond anymore on this slave. So that's why you always start with a master. So after upgrading the master, you can migrate back VMs from your slave, still running on XenServer, to the XCP-ng master, and then doing the same procedure for your slaves, and so on and so on. Just remember that after the first boot on XCP-ng, you will have to make some updates on your DOM0. So using yum upgrade and reboot once more. It means that you download latest Xen version with security fixes, and also some libraries with bug fixes. So this is really important. So in the end, it means 2 reboots. But yeah, this is how you will be completely up to date and ready to migrate VMs back to the master and then to your slave, etc. So in the end, this is the generic steps. But in the end, it means you just live migrated VMs and your production was intact, and nobody noticed that you upgraded. This is something that you can achieve. Before doing an upgrade, there is some stuff to check. You can always upgrade from, for example, the same version number. So if you have XenServer 7.6 and you want to upgrade to XCPng 7.6, this will work, no problem. It will also work if you have an older version of XenServer to a more recent version of XCPng, no problem, it works. Obviously, you can't upgrade XenServer 7.6 to XCPng 7.5. I mean, there is no point to do that, but also you can't do that. So it makes sense. Before doing the upgrade, also, you need to disable high availability. And this is something that you must do in any case, even in the case of a XenServer upgrade to another XenServer upgrade. This is the same story, because high availability will try to understand what's happening on this and these hosts, and it starts to trigger a lot of stuff, and you can have very bad surprises. So before any upgrade, if you have a high availability, disable it. Same story for clustering. Clustering is a feature appeared in XenServer 7.5, I think, yeah. And these features allow to use GFS2, which is a proprietary feature of XenServer since 7.5. So you need to check if it's disabled. If you didn't enable it, there is no problem because it won't cause any trouble. But in case, you need to disable that. Another trick to know is that before doing the upgrade, you need to eject all the CDs, because during an upgrade, some bundled ISOs will be upgraded, like tools, etc. So you need to eject all the CDs from all your VMs. So just running this XE command here will do that, and it can save you for a lot of debug time. We had some people having this issue on the forum, and they found that the root cause was because they have some CDs mounted inside VM. So this is some trick. If you respect all the 3 points, then everything will be fine. About the limitations, so there is some known limitation regarding the upgrade. You can't do a Xen storage motion. So to recap what it is, Xen storage motion, if, for example, if you have VMs on a local storage on a slave and you want to live migrate to the new master, this won't work, okay? This is a limitation introduced in an old version of XenServer. We are about to fix it, to remove this limitation in XCP-ng, but we can't, push this modification inside XenServer. So because you're migrating from XenServer, you will hit this limitation. Okay, so if you don't have a shared storage repository inside your pool, this means that you will need to make the migration while the VM is halted, okay? In general, the thing to keep in mind is it's easier if you have a shared storage repository to make a live migration during a pool upgrade. So what I mean by during a pool upgrade is, for example, you just rebooted the pool master and it's ready on XCP-ng and your slaves are still running on XenServer. So you will have to know that. So if you don't have a shared storage repository, my first advice would be to try to find one, even any NFS storage, something like that. This will be really easier for you to have something running live. So you can do that. Also, what's interesting about the known limitation, older XenServer version hardest will be the migration path. I say that because there is some old bugs that aren't, fixed, that aren't backported to older version of XenServer. So it will work. I mean, we have some people who even migrated from 6.2 or something like that. So it can work, but you just raise, the chances to fail for whatever reason. So you have to know that. Well, in theory, even on XenServer 5 can be able to migrate to XCPng 7.6. But this is in theory. So if you can, for example, create a clone of your VM and make a test before, this could be a good idea, to avoid any disturbance on your production. Okay, so it can be weird, but in fact, you can't do Xen storage motion, but you can do a crosspool migration. It means that if you have, for example, an old pool running XenServer 6.5, for example, and you have, for example, new hardware running XCPng 7.6, you can live migrate VMs from this old pool to the new pool. It works, but there is some things to know, and we'll see that in details just a bit after that. So, as I said, there is multiple possibilities to migrate to XCPng from XenServer. So the first one, the easiest one, is to upgrade within an existing pool, live if you have a shared storage, or not in live if you don't have a shared storage. Then you got a crosspool, and finally another alternative will to use XenOrchestra backups or continuous replication, and I will also explain more in details few slides later. So for now, before going further in the slide, I will show you a quick demonstration. So it's 100% live, so I hope everything will be fine. But then this is a XenOrchestra running, and you got a console view on XenServer 7.6 inside a VM. So this will be convenient to show you. As you can see XenServer 7.6. Also, if we go inside the local shell, I will show you something. Okay, so just to show you, I made a small modification on the network name, so to see that it will be kept in the future after the upgrade. So this network is called LAN and Webinar Test Network in the name description. Okay, so now we will shut down the hosts. Okay, so we are shutting down the host. So this is just a VM. The pool is one host only, so this is a basic scenario, but this is a way to show you how it works. So obviously this is the pool master, and we will introduce the XCPng ISO inside it and boot it on it. So I will just check that. Yeah, I will boot on the DVD drive, and let's go. Okay, so first thing first, you will boot on XCPng ISO as if you wanted to install it. Okay, so nothing special for now. Okay, so it's booting. So this is in a VM, so it's not very ultra fast, and it should be faster if you do the upgrade on bare metal hardware. Okay. So on a bare metal hardware, it's like if you burn a CD or an USB key. So I will choose US. Welcome to XCPng setup. Okay. And this is the critical part. It's checking for existing products, and this is where it will be able to detect a previous install version. Okay, so basic EULA, and then this is the important screen. The installer detects that we have running XenServer version running. So it's a XenServer 7.60, and I'm installing XCPng 7.60. So as I said, you can upgrade for the same major number version. It's not a problem at all. So in our case, we want to upgrade. So obviously we won't select perform clean installation. Okay. And this is what's great with the upgrade mechanism. It will create a backup of the existing installation. So in all XenServers in 7.0, there is a specific partition layout with an extra partition made for this case, and this case only, to be able to upgrade and to save the contents of the active partition toward another partition. So, okay, we'll continue to install from the local CD. We don't care to check the ISO, and okay, so this installation will be performed over XenServer 7.60, preserving existing virtual machines in your storage repository. So nothing will be removed, either a local storage or your Zappy settings. So let's go. So this will take a while, so I will continue the slides while it's running. So just to let you know, first thing happening behind the scene is doing a backup of the existing installation, and then it will install XCPng inside the active partition, and it will then get Zappy settings inside the new partitions. Keep in mind that any upgrade, it's the same for XenServer. It's exactly the same principle. When you make an upgrade, it's a kind of reinstall, but keeping the old settings. Okay, it's not just, you know, adding upgrading packages with yum. Okay, so it's rewriting everything in the active partition, but getting the backup configuration in the end, applying on top of the clean installation. So you will keep the UID, you will keep the network, the storage configuration, everything in Zappy database. Okay, so this will take a few minutes. So let's go back to the slides. So I did the easiest one, you know, without any VMs right now, but this is the same principle. As I said, this is exactly the one I'm doing. So booting on USB key or ISO, select upgrade, and then when we'll finish, you know, the basic upgrade, we will boot on XCPng, and I will run yum upgrade or yum update, same thing, to be able to get the latest packages. You can live migrate, as I said, if you have a shared storage. If you don't have a shared storage, then you can migrate, but not in live. Okay, this will work also. The other possibility is to make a cross-pool upgrade. So as I said earlier, you have two pools, for example, maybe one new pool with new hardware running XCPng already installed, and you want to migrate your VMs from the legacy, the old pool, to this new pool. So if you do that, you can live migrate VMs from XenServer pool to another XCPng pool. It works. But there is some things to know before. We reported a bug to Citrix regarding the fact that if your VMs doesn't have a platform device ID, then your VMs will fail to migrate. We don't know exactly the reason, but it seems that XenServer is expecting this value on the destination. If it's not the case, then the VM will fail to migrate. So in general, it's caused by using VMs, install VM and create VM with the other install media template. Okay, because this template doesn't create this value inside the VM settings. If you have any doubt, if you create it, for example, with a Windows template or Linux template, that will be fine. But if you have a doubt, then you can check if the VM get this platform parameter with doing this param get platform and grabbing on a device. If it's missing, then you can add it. And if you have a Linux VM, you will need to add the platform device 301, and for Windows VM 302. There is a CTX on that, so if you want to check the link, it explains how to do so. And you can do that from XE, and this will work. If you do that, we heard people mainly have success with this kind of migration. So it could be also interesting if you don't want to upgrade your legacy hardware and just use your brand new server running XCPng. And what I found really cool is the fact that you can live migrate from an old XenServer pool to another one. And this allows you to transition to XCPng without any pain. Let's go back, to the upgrade. So as I said, it's installing, and this is the right word because it's not upgrading. It's installing in the new partition, the active partition, and then it will apply all the settings from the previous install. So we are almost there. I will wait a bit to finish. No, I don't want any supplemental packs. And this will be completed relatively soon. A quick trick, if you want to know, if you use Alt and arrow key, you can right arrow key and Alt at the same time twice. You can see what's going on inside the installer itself. Could be useful to understand what's happening behind the scene if you want to know. And go back in the other TTY with the same keyboard shortcuts. So this can take a few minutes too, but again, more or less the post that you have on physical hardware, when you start to make the upgrade, it will go relatively fast on bare metal hardware. And the last scenario is using backups. In general, it's always good to have backups of your VMs, regardless the fact that you are upgrading or not. What I can tell is, if you are using backups done with XenOrchestra, you can restore them on XCPng, even if those backups were made on XenServer. Regardless the type of backup you are doing. If you are doing, a basic backup or Delta backup, you can restore them on XCPng, despite the fact you made those backup, for example, on XenServer 6.5 or whatever. This is always great to have, something in backup if something is going wrong. But you can also leverage backup if you want to migrate. For example, if you don't want to make an upgrade, you want to make a clean install, or if you don't want to use the previous processes, you can do with extra backup. The only downside doing that is you will have downtime, obviously, and bigger the VM, larger the downtime, because you will have to wait for the VM, the backup, to be restored. However, with Xen Orchestra Continuous Replication, you can, for example, start to replicate your VMs on XenServer toward an XCP-ng hosts, and then doing that every, let's say, hour. And when you want to start a migration, then you just shut down the VM, restart, relaunch a backup CR job to just copy the latest bits of your VMs, and then you just have to boot it on destination. This is also a good way to test if the VM on destination will run well on XCPng, but I won't be concerned about that. So this is an alternative strategy if you want to make an upgrade without using the two previous processes. And also, as I said, having a backup is always a good idea. You can't, maybe having a surprise with your hardware during the upgrade, you don't know. Okay, so almost done for the upgrade here. Okay, so it says the XCPng installation is completed. So I will eject the ISO because it's okay to do so, and I will press enter to reboot. So let's wait a bit for the reboot to happen, and then we will see that we will reboot not on XenServer but on XCPng, and as you can see, that's the case. We got the grub boot menu. This is XCPng, and we'll have the splash screen. Just have to wait a bit for it to boot. Okay. So again, because the two platforms are pretty similar, the upgrade is really trivial. It's simple. It works exactly as if you did that with a more recent version of XenServer. So we'll just wait a bit to have the main menu with the okay, the choices. Okay, that's done. So as you can see here, it worked. We are on XCPng 7.6. We have the same IP address, and if we go on the local, I kept the same network with the same name, same description, same UID. Everything is exactly the same. The host name here was the same because it doesn't change your host name. So here my host name was XenServer 7.6, but it's just the host name. You can change it later. It's not changing. It's kept. I think this is one of the only thing kept, because in fact it's kept from the Zappy database, and on boot the host name is taken from the Zappy database. Another thing to know is if you made some modification inside your dump 0, for example, if you, I don't know, created a file inside the root folder or whatever, it won't be kept, because again, it's not an upgrade on packages. Everything is reinstalled inside the partition. So if you have, manually edited files on the dump 0, you need to have those files somewhere, or you can access the backup partition if you want to get those files back. Again, everything inside your previous installation is inside the backup partition. I will try to show you. Okay, this is a partition scheme on these hosts. The first one is the active partition, and the second one is the backup partition. Okay, so that's how it works. And if you decide to mount this partition, you will have access to all the file system previously on XenServer 7.6. And this is precisely how rollback will happen. So I will just skip this slide for now and show you the rollback. If you have something surprise or something, a problem, and you don't have time to investigate or to ask support for it, then you can roll back from XCPng to the XenServer. It's a possibility. So to do so, I will shut down XCPng. I wonder if I have an ISO. Yeah, I should have an ISO. XenServer, yeah, I have plenty of them. 7.6 install cd ISO. And I don't even need to do that, in fact. I think, let me try something. I wonder if using the same XCPng ISO, I can trigger the rollback. It's just a bit curious, because I think I can do that, but I'm not 100% sure. So I reinserted the XCPng ISO inside inside the VM and booting on it. And we will see what the choice that we will have inside the installer this time, to see if it will add an entry to rollback. Okay, so same screens. Okay. Try to detect existing products. We'll accept the ULA. Okay, so as you can see here, even if I'm reinserting the XCPng ISO, I can select restore XenServer 7.6 from backup. You will have the same choice with XenServer ISO, because the installer will try to fetch the content of a backup partition and see if there is previous product installed in there. So this is, if you select that, then it will be the opposite of what we've just done before. So it will take the content of the backup partition and restore it inside the main partition. So let's try to do that. Okay, and this time the active partition itself won't be backup, so it will erase XCPng in this case. Makes sense. So this is restoring the main partition, and if everything goes well, after this we'll be able to reboot and find back XenServer 7.6. Also, please note that you will find back the ZAPI as it were during XenServer 7.6. So if you added new VMs until then, they will be lost. So roll back just after an installation to be sure you won't erase anything that you've done after installing XCPng. This may take a while, so let's go back to something else. If you have an older version of XenServer, everything that's before 7.0, the partition layout change, and it means that you must use the new one, because before 7.0, the root partition, including the var partition, was only 4 gig big. So this is really small and cause a lot of trouble inside the dump0 roots file system, because when you added, for example, large updates or that kind of stuff, then you could go to a full root partition, and when it happens, then ZAPI can't write anything inside the database. So basically this is bad. That's why they decided to change this layout in 7.0. And to make the change, you need to do something in each host you want to upgrade, okay? So again, for everything that's 6.5 and before, you need to write this inside every host running 6.5 or before. This empty file will tell the installer that's okay to remove everything to create the new partition. Because the layout is completely different, it means it will be erased, okay? So that's why you need to create this file. Also, because this will format the disk where XenServer is installed, if you have a local storage installed on this disk, it will remove this local storage. Okay, so really be careful with that. If you have a local storage and an old XenServer version and XenServer installed on this disk, and you want to upgrade to the new partition scheme, then you need to migrate the VM toward a new pool, or to make a backup of these VMs, because you must change and use the new partition scheme. Okay, this line is available and on the wiki, so if you will be able to read that, when you do that. So no worries. Okay, so the restore operation completed successfully, so I will just click on OK and this will restart. I will eject the CD. Too late. Okay, let's force reboot without the ISO, please. Too late. Okay, just wait a bit. Okay, so reboot didn't work, so force shutdown should work. Yes, no. Because it's waiting for the ISO to be ejected. Anyway, let's wait. If you need help to migrate, if you have questions regarding how to do that with your own infrastructure, then you can ask for it on our forum. And if you want professional support, because we can offer you a dedicated upgrade assistance inside your infrastructure, you can contact us on xcpng.com. Okay. Just to make a quick recap again, if you have a shared storage repository, it will be easier in the end. And also remember, after you reboot on XCPng, after the first reboot, to make a YUM upgrade and to reboot again to be sure you have the latest patches. This is basically all you need to know on the, let's say, 90% of use case. We got also, you can find, I think, on Twitter some people with testimonies explaining that they did a successful migration even on large infrastructure. We got, in fact, one user with a lot of hosts, hundreds of hosts, and also already migrated, let's say, half of their infrastructure to XCPng with success. So it can be done, and it's not a big deal, and it's not harder than doing a XenServer upgrade in the end. Okay, if you have question, it will be time to open the Q&A. So there is a small delay between this live and the chat, so keep that in mind if you have question. I will wait 5 minutes to be sure people have time to write their question, and if we missed this Q&A session, you can always ask on the forum. Again, the community is really great inside the XCPng project, so feel free to go there and to explain what's your issue or what you want to achieve during this migration. Okay, so this is stuck. I don't know why. Let's say there's a demo effect. So it seems there isn't any question, so it's not that bad. It means maybe I was clear enough. This presentation will be available on this YouTube channel, so if you want to watch it again, then you can do so. Okay, so I think that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and again, see you on the forum or IRC. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.